What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Today I want to talk about the palm colored people and how we humans have to teach them how to be human, right? And how it's a painful and arduous process. And what I mean is, we humans, us humans, human beings, we are living beings with a hue, melanin, feeding from the sun. We who are in simpatico with nature and the cycle of Mother Earth, we have to teach palm color people how to act as sentient beings, basically, right? And it seems so ridiculous, right, that in 2024 we have to teach people who spend a lot of time telling other people that they are less than, that they are subhuman, that they are not civilized. Keep in mind, they project this on almost everybody, but in actuality, the human organism that has displayed the most barbaric, unhuman, uncivilized acts are these palm colored people, right? But we also must take in consideration that these palm colored people are the newest hominids on the planet, right? They have not been here long enough. They don't have enough time. They don't have enough experience to know how to be human. And plus, we all know that they are also not only a mix of humans, but they are a mix between humans and our cousins, the Neanderthal and the Denisovans, right? And if you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, she looks exactly like a Neanderthal. To be honest, I'm starting to think that Neanderthals and palm colored people actually look and are more similar than they even let off, even though they're starting to admit that they are, their ancestors are those Denisovans and Neanderthals, and over a certain 1,000 years of mixing with humans, they may have developed human traits, but they still seem to carry an archaic, barbaric sense of morality and just the way they are as a group of people, right? To where we have to teach them right from wrong. We have to teach them, oh, it's not right to just go and steal somebody's stuff. Oh, it's not right to go murder everybody. That's not okay. It's not right to go graping other civilization. It's not right to do that. Like, as you advance as a spirit, right, as humans, as we advance these units, these beasts that we live in, and we try to elevate it, right? Us Africans, we've been here long enough to do it. We've been through our barbaric, archaic stages, even though we still have the capability of doing all those things, right? But as a whole, we have risen to a level of like we're one. We connect with the spirit, with sound, with nature, with the vibration. We know nature is vibration. Everybody's made of atoms, right? We've connected, right? We've connected with it, right? And we've also learned how to connect with nature to the point where how to use nature to heal us and to change us and to form us and to guide us and to teach us. We've literally been here that long, right? But these palm colored people haven't, right? So they're kind of very immature in the way they think that to solve a problem is to murder, death, kill, because they're acting like the other lesser animals that have to do that to survive, right? So we gotta teach these people, and to the point where we got things called CRT, right? Where we literally as adults have to have classes to teach white people how not to be racist. We have to have classes and seminars to teach a whole section of people how not to be barbaric, right? And there are a lot of the people, their own people, who have risen to a high enough level to become fully aware that they have these tendencies and they need to change, unless they're gonna go extinct, because their way of being is not that way of being is not that's not conducive to survival in the future, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna attach one of them who has risen to the level of understanding, to understand the plight of the new humanoid, the new spirit, who are still trying to figure out how to be human, right? And we, I guess, we made them, right? We keep saying they are children, we mothers, fathers, everybody, so it's our duty, whether we like it or not, And we're gonna have to teach these people how to be human. If not, we're gonna have to deal with the consequences of living with unhuman, uncivilized beasts for eternity, right? Until they, while they're still around, right? Because, it's just what it is, right? And just like any place else, for some reason, their cultural practice have made it so people don't believe anything until you hear one of them say it. They have the side effect of their mental illness, of their old, archaic, barbaric, Neanderthal, Denisovan ways, cultural ways, non-human ways, is that we had to deal with the psychological consequences of dealing with these people thinking they're exactly like us. But as science progresses and we start to figure out DNA, we start to figure out our past and history, we find out history is way more complicated and crazy than you think, right? Like all the stuff that we made up sounds fantastical, but the truth is actually way more crazy, right? It's way more crazy, way more fantastical than all the stuff that we've made up. Like the truth is more fantastical than the fantasy, right? There was a time when us human beings were on this planet with several different hominids, all right? Africans have been on this planet and have survived, intermingled with, fought, battled, warred with other hominids, right? And then we have gotten to the point where those hominids have went extinct, or we have merged with those hominids in different places on the planet. Europeans, that the ones that we see now, the ones that only been here for 5,000 years at the most, and we know that the previous hominids, just recently disappeared. So we know the mixture at some point, the admixture itself, become weaker or stronger depending on where you are. But we see the concentration of that primordial mix, that Middle Earth. Remember that Middle Earth? Europe. If you never noticed, Europe, all their history is really fantasy, and all their true history is just war. Think about it. I want you to stop everything and think about this. All of European history, everything they're proud of, everything that represents them, it's all war. Everything is war and death. Everything, pre-Christianity, war, death, destruction, kill, death, murder, mayhem, drama. That's it. That's why they've never been able to build anything great, because they never had sustained levels of peace, because they've always been fighting for the finite resources within that territory. Plus, the weather and the climate and everything dictated, but it is what it is, and that's what happened, right? So they developed this thing. Now we got these people called Europeans. They don't necessarily, as they are now, they don't necessarily mix with nature correctly. There is anti-nature. Nature's against their form, right? That form is not fitting for nature. So they have to go, so they have to do something, whether mixing further with humans, right? In order to advance their DNA, to level up their DNA, which a lot of them are doing, right? And some of them like to stay pure, and we see they have a tendency to mix within their own families, and they like, you get what I'm going to, it's something that they do, right? But I want to explain racism because, we got a lot of black people who don't understand that racism is not just one simple thing, but it's a mental illness that's really just a symptom of many different things. They're really just afraid. Europeans have always been afraid of the other. They've always been xenophobic. They've always been racist to a certain extent. They've always looked at their neighbor as their enemy, but they had reasons to because of the societies they lived in, right? And they've always had a weird relationship with each other where they can literally enslave each other, befriend each other, enslave each other, befriend each other, team up, enslave another group of people, befriend it. Like the morals, like they wouldn't just, I'm gonna slave you, you're my enemy for life. No, I can enslave you, and then you come and enslave me, and they're like, all right, remember that battle we was fighting the other day? Yeah, all right, let's go kill our cousin over there. It's like there's no community. They're not like us. You understand? They're not like us. So a group of people that's used to centuries of just that type of moral thinking, they have no problems enslaving the rest of the world. Why not? I mean, it's what they do, right? So they're trying to deconstruct it right now. Right now, they're in a process of deconstruction. They're trying to elevate themselves by deconstructing their barbaric ways, their barbaric learned culture, right? So I'm gonna put this clip right here. I want you to listen to this lady on this part one of what she got to say about racism and about, what it is that, what it really is behind the veil of plausible deniability and all those other various things that used to hide themselves.
Before we can really get into the work of how to deconstruct our racism as white women, we first have to figure out what kind of racist we are. So that's what the next few parts of the series are going to go over, is what kind of racist white women are we? The first two that I'm going to talk about in this video are explicitly racist white people. I have a feeling they're not watching, but it's good to learn this information anyway. The next video we'll talk about implicitly racist white people. The third video will touch very briefly on internalized racism because it's important to the conversation, but I am not going to talk about that. It's way out of bounds for me. And the fourth video we'll talk about anti-racist people, and that's what the goal is. We are all trying to get to anti-racist. So welcome along, and here we go. Okay, so the first type of racism we're going to talk about in this video is called dominative racism. This is like your old-fashioned racism. This is your traditional bigotry. This is your racial slurs, hate crimes, tiki torches, Proud Boys, Aryan Brotherhood. This is your like white nationalist type of racism. Since that, though, has become like fairly uncommon and gets checked socially way more often than it did in the past, people have moved more into the next type of explicit racism that I'm going to talk about, which is symbolic modern racism. And that is where you hold deep values in your brain that the negative stereotypes perpetuated about Black people are actually true. And those stereotypes include things like Black women don't feel pain, Black women are aggressive, Black men are criminals. Those are the kind of stereotypes that like you truly believe are real. This is someone who, like, when you're watching the news and you hear like, oh, the bank got robbed today, immediately you're like, oh, I know for a fact a Black person did that because they commit more crimes than a white person. It's still explicit racism because you know what you're thinking and you like believe it to be true. And you are loud with that hate. Like you think other people think that way too.
Now, as you heard, you know, one of the forms of racism is implicit racism. That's the form of racism that's probably permeates in the palm-colored people's communities mostly, right? And it's that implicit racism that even Black people who want to move closer to whiteness, they tend to trend and they pick up, and so they start to be racist, but they do it implicitly. That way they can cover themselves. They need plausible deniability, right? So you think about like Fox News and you think about what the Republicans and the things like that they say. Instead of saying, I hate Black people, they'll say, you know, Black people are criminals, you know, and this justifies why I hate them because they're dangerous, right? Because statistically, they'll go find something, skew some numbers, you know, and make a narrow view to try to bolster their point. And this is what Black conservatives do. Like, the Black, and you listen to what the Black conservatives say, right? Listen to how they complain when they say that they're holding their community accountable, because that's their favorite word. Because, Black conservatives don't have that many words. They only have the words given to them by their white masters, right? So if you listen to Black conservatives, it'll sound very familiar with the attacks that when they attack their own community, because they have self-hate, they hate themselves, they have an internal racism that they're dealing with. So they deal with internal racism on top of implicit racism. They bundle that up and they turn that into a political view that they take on, right? And they feel if they do that in simpatico with their European counterparts, that they're going to be accepted. But it never happens ever in history. Nowhere in history has it ever happened. But they do it. I just want you to recognize it. So I'm gonna let this elevated lady give you the part 2 so she can break it down a little bit further.
Welcome to part 2 of what kind of racist white woman are you? This video goes over people that are implicitly racist. This is probably where the majority of the white, I would like to think, this is where the majority of the white women that are watching this series fall. These are people that don't want to be racist, but are. The two types we're gonna go over are aversive racism and non-racist passive bystanders. That's a lot to say. So aversive racism revolves around this idea where people want equality. Okay, these people want equality. They want everyone on the same playing field. However, they think that there's only two types of racism, and that's racist and not racist. And they don't really understand the way that there's like a whole multifaceted larger picture at play. That's why they're implicitly racist, because explicitly they think that they want equality, but they hold these negative, conflicting values, beliefs, feelings towards Black people that only make them perpetuate racism even further. I'd argue that this is one of the more dangerous types of racism, to be honest, and this is specifically, in my opinion, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, this is the kind of racist that is very, very scary for Black women to be around, because they want to believe at face value that these white women are with it, and then all of a sudden they do this crazy shit that just proves that they don't know anything about what they're talking about. These are your people that are like all lives matter movement, white feminism movement. These are people where like as soon as a group of black people is like, hey, we'd actually like to have an all black sorority, you know, like where we can all just, you know, as black women congregate and feel safe with one another. These white women are like, absolutely not. That's not fair. There's absolutely no way I would let you do that. No, 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 no. At the same time, though, they're screaming about equality. So it's like they don't quite get it. And as soon as you threaten their white privilege or their access to power as a white person, it's game over for these folks. The other little sliver of this category of racism is going to be the white saviors. So let's say that you're driving and you're pulling off the interstate and you see two homeless people on the side of the road and you've got a black person and a white person and you yourself have $10. White saviors are the kind of people who are going to, first off, they're going to pull their phone out. They're going to start recording. They're going to take their $10. They're going to give it to the black person, you know, and they're gonna post it on the internet, hoping that people are like, oh my God, look at you. You did so good. Oh my goodness, you're so good at what you did. You totally helped out that less fortunate black man. Oh my gosh. When in reality, they could have just had 2 5s and given 1 to each person and done the same amount of good. Arguably more good because you're helping 2 people, but that's another conversation. But these type of people feel like because they gave the $10 to the black person who probably needed it more or is less fortunate than the other person who's in the exact same situation as them, they are doing some kind of social, you know, justice hoorah. Also, they're always going to record it because they need that like social, I don't know, boost of ego. I hope that made sense. The other kind of implicit racism we're going to talk about is kind of like counterintuitive in a way that it's actually non-racist, passive bystander. That's so hard to say. But these people, they hold value, they believe in equality, and I'd argue they actually believe in equity, which is something that the other group didn't in this video, or at least didn't understand. But these people fail to take action against racist acts or when they witness racism on the guise that it will also interfere with their white privilege and access to power as a white person. Okay, welcome back to part 3 of What Kind of Racist White Woman Am I? This part actually doesn't pertain to white people directly. However, it indirectly affects the entire system of racism. So we're going to talk about internalized racism. And for the sake of this series, which is white women and black people, this would be, internalized racism would be like a black person that is racist against other black people on the guise that they feel like acting white or being accepted by white people is better than being black or being liked by black people. The reason why this is so important to this series is because these people that have these internalized racist views against themselves and their community are oftentimes the people that are used to further perpetuate the hate towards their community by racist white people and further perpetuate negative stereotypes and negative rhetoric about their community by racist white people. Someone who's often used by Fox News or like racist Republicans is Candace Owens because she looks black and is perceived at face value as a black woman that she could speak for the black community. And if you didn't know any, you know, past context, you'd be like, oh, this black woman's on Fox News. I wonder what's going on. And then she starts spewing this really hateful Republican rhetoric. It's like the Republicans eat this shit up. The racist Republicans they're all racist. I just wanted to be clear. Eat this shit up because they're like, well, look, she's black and she said it. But it's like, she's an outlier, okay? These kind of people are complete outliers to their community, and that's why it's dangerous. But they're the first people that racist white people will use to, you know, push their own story and their own narrative. So I guess the reason why I put it in this series is if you are someone who finds yourself often being like, well, yeah, but I saw this one black person 3 weeks ago on Fox News say this thing, so it must be true. Maybe, just maybe you need to look at why you're doing that and why you're not just listening to the greater black community, but rather holding on to one voice that is saying what a tiny, tiny percent or minority is saying. Outside of that, on a very real note, internalized racism, I can't imagine. I can only understand it in the way that I compare it to internalized misogyny. And it's something that community, like when you're a marginalized community or an oppressed community, you've got to deconstruct your own stuff, and everyone does that at a different rate. So some people just haven't got there yet, and that's for them and their community to work through. We as white people cannot comment nor judge for that.
All right, so I hope you learned something today by an enlightened palm-colored person. You see, they have a lot of stuff to deal with, and it's up to us as the human beings, right, to help them along, to teach them how to be human so that we all can just, have a good life and move on and do other things. There are other things that we could be doing as human beings if we didn't spend so much time being afraid of each other. Because one afraid person begots another afraid person, begots another afraid person, begots another afraid person. All right, it's just a domino effect. right? And these new humans, these palm-colored people, they have to learn to be human. They have to learn to elevate themselves to the point to where they're willing to take the risk to live, right? And not be afraid, and embrace and enjoy all the differences in culture, nationalities, and ways of thinking and language, and how to view the world and how to govern each other. They have to come to a realization that it's not just their way. All right, everybody has different ways of doing it. Some are better than others, right? And some things that they have done are good. It's not like everything they've done is bad. It's just most of it, but everything they've done has not been bad, right? But they're brand new, and we've all done the same horrible, dumb, stupid, retarded, inhuman crap at some point in our existence. But this is just what they're doing, right? And that's reality, and we all have to deal with the emotional consequences of that thing, right? But yeah, man, that's why everybody's got mental illness now, right? All of a sudden, they have to deal with their mental illness, right? As a collective, they have to deal with come to a reality of how the world actually works. They have to take the blue pill or the red pill. They have to make a choice. They have to choose to remain ignorant and blissfully happy, or live in the real world where things are not always, you know, compatible for what it is that you want to do or believe. You know, it's much easier to just let people live, and you do your thing, and you respect other people's while they do their thing, right? And you'll find it that you can enjoy many different cultures, many different situations in life, and have a full, rich experience. But yeah, they're gonna have to get with it, because the world is moving on from their culture of being afraid and xenophobic and hateful and racist towards everything. We are elevating, we're enlightening ourselves as human beings. We're shooting for the stars, all right? We don't got time for this stuff down here, all right? We got more. We're so much capable. We are capable of doing so much more than what we are currently doing now. We could have been so much further as beings, all right? And when I say beings, I'm talking about literal beings in the universe. We could be much further if we didn't stifle ourselves with stupid, dumb, petty stuff that keep ourselves down. It's self-defeating. Anyway, tell me what you guys think about this in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.